I want to ask a question to Sanchi, you and Vishesh. What do you think about the idea of Alice going with Bill to have the meeting with Craig? What do you think about that idea?
I think that may not be the right choice. I think here the relation between Craig and Alice wasn't stated, if I'm not wrong.
It was stated. Basically,
Yes.
he had a bad first meeting with her. And then Tom started to kind of whisper in his ear, I don't trust her
Right.
motives, so he doesn't have a good impression of her.
Yeah, I think it would backstab in case Alice accompanies Bill. So Bill could do this on his own.
Okay, so it would be like a backfiring if she went along. Sanchi, what do you think?
I was thinking about it like one is, of course, the point that Vishay suggested. And the second piece that I was thinking was that imagine a room where there are two people walking into a room where probably say I am sitting, and they walk into my room, and my instinct would be that, they are trying to kind of, put me, in a corner and kind of attack. So some sort of, fear and anxiety and insecurity would emerge in me if there are two people coming into my room and talking to me, where I kind of I'm assuming that they have kind of paired up already to talk to me about something that they are on team on already. So
Right.
I would feel really insecure about that, meeting, taking on that meeting. So yeah, I might act very insecure and defensive. Even if I could change my opinion, I would be very defensive, and it might not go well if there are two people walking into my room.
So it puts risk, it sounds like it puts a lot of risk into the situation. And part of what we're trying to do is find paths with low risk. So if we kind of think about Vishesh's suggestion, which is Bill goes to Craig on his own, versus the option I threw in there of Alice and Bill go together, it sounds like Vishesh's option is better. It's lower risk. Okay, so let's assume that then that is going to be our second choice. And then what would you suggest, Vishesh, that our third option would be of this third strategic influencing move? What would make most sense?
Yeah, I think Craig going to Tom would make sense. That is one possibility which I see. Yeah, Craig going to Tom would be, I think, this stronger opinion I would have.
Craig to Tom. And what would you suggest would be in that conversation? Like what would Craig say to Tom?
So Tom, I think Tom being in the card which I had, Tom stated to have great trust and respect for Craig. So having stated that, I think whatever Craig would put up to influence him, it would at least be for Tom to more believing in. Also because he was of the opinion and being more keen on the Toledo plant. And here where we're talking the Toledo and chromium, which could be paired up with, will help convince Tom to join team.
Okay, so part of what I'm hearing you say is that they have a strong relationship, and so it's low risk conversation.
Right.
But also he was saying Tom is interested in Toledo and he's going to get Toledo. So we can tell him, Craig can tell him that in the conversation.
Yeah, as long as you are able to kind of accommodate the other person's interest into the whole game and not show that you show disregard for his ideas, I think it should be easy to win over. And looking at the overall interest, because I think Tom also, I think he believes that Alice is doing something for the company, good for the company. And if that feeling is there, that should be exploited. You got to put both personal interests and the company interest both into your arguments.
Absolutely, absolutely. So would you be comfortable with this as a third move, Rajiv? Craig goes to Tom and has that conversation with him?
Yes, I mean, only rival is that when do we approach Oven? That's the whole game plan. The final game, as the wicket has to fall there.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, so whoever has a good approach to Oven, and he should not be taken by surprise. That's important, and there should be some kind of warming up to the idea being done for Owen. So that has to be kept in mind on how to do it.
Okay, and Sanchi, what's your perspective on the Craig to Tom as number 3 in the conversation?
Yeah, I feel that that should be the next for sure. But also, like Rajiv suggested, that what does Craig really stands for, that should be included into the conversation.
Absolutely. So I think, if Akash, you could put that in as step 3, that makes sense to me. And to kind of pick up, Rajiv, on what you had been talking about there, your point is in the first 3 steps, we're not actually talking to Owen, who's the most powerful guy in relation to the CEO. So if we have these 3 as our steps 1, 2, and 3, there has to be a 4th step, right? Which is somebody's going to have to go and have a conversation with Owen before the Friday when we meet together. So who do you think that should be? I'm gonna point this at Rajesh and Vishesh. What do you think should be the 4th? Who goes to Owen?
Both Alice and Bill have got a negative relationship with Owen, and I think that in terms of impartiality, Craig could somehow influence Owen because he is giving a legal perspective, and also he is taken as a somehow neutral in organizational politics. The legal person is not taken as a contender in any way. He is just offering advice. So it would be safe to let the Craig do the warming up, and then Tom also influence Owen next.
So Vishesh, what do you think of that plan?
Yeah, I would be of a similar opinion. Also, Tom being on the verge of his retirement, so it won't be a threat to Owen as he's touting to be the next CEO.
So I think that's a really important point to consider. Sanchi, what do you think?
I'm a little confused about, who should go, Tom or Craig. I was just going through my Craig notes, if I can find a cue to move in one direction. I am not sure yet.
Okay, so Akash, can I ask you to move back to our little star shape? Because part of what I said to you guys at the beginning was that Joel has told us information, and wherever he's told us information about the relationships, we have a line between the two. But you'll see in this, Vishesh and Rajiv, if you're there is no line between Owen and Tom or Owen and Craig, which means Joel did not tell us what their relationships are like. So Rajiv has pointed out that it can't be Alice and it can't be Bill, because we know for sure they have negative relationships with Owen. So we really don't want to put them in those conversations. And it means it's going to be one of the other 2, but we have to find out which one has a better relationship with him before we decide that. Joel is a bit tricky in what he's very careful about what he tells you and what he doesn't tell you. So absolutely, somebody's got to go to Owen before the Friday, before the meeting. And it's going to be either Tom or Craig, but we don't know which one until we find out who has a higher trust relationship with him. Okay?
Yeah.
Great. So I think we can come into, kind of like close this out and now pretend that we're talking it through with the boss. Sanchi, I would love for you to do any final debriefs that have not been done as we've been going along.
I would just say, I think in a nutshell, that what we tried to do was to cover the low risk, high trust relationships first. So that's something that I'd like to say. Second, we tried to see something what Rajiv suggested, that we took in terms of thinking about what should be talked about, we took into account what are the individual benefits or individual concerns and interests, at the same time the business's interests. So we looked at both in a way, and all of that in an ethical way, I feel. So that's second. Third thing that we also looked at is that how a two-people conversation with one person is a risky conversation as compared to a one-to-one conversation. So I would also like to highlight that. And third thing that I'd like to highlight, I don't know who had that, but there was some information that was a little, could have been used slyly. Liz, did you have that card? I don't know, somebody spoke about this. You did.
Yeah.
And can you read that information for us? Just that reading that sentence for all of us to know what that was.
I don't have the cards in front of me, so this is from memory, but basically,
All right.
Bill knows that Alice has information about Tom. And if she misrepresented the information, she could get Tom pushed into an unwanted early retirement. So Tom is not aware of this, but Bill is aware of this and Alice is aware of this. But she would basically have to do something unethical to push him out. And if you will, take away somebody who she's afraid will not support Chromium.
Right. Thanks. So we did have that information, and in life circumstances, such informations always exist about people. But here is a case where we did not use that information at all, and still we were able to at least get through the first 3 strategic steps of, the task that's in front of us. So that's another, a recap that I had, that information like this always exists, but we need not use them, and we can be absolutely ethical in making our strategic moves to a certain decision that will support us and the organization together. Last bit I think I'd like to mention is that, in a nutshell again, that in this whole strategic influencing, it was never that we were not abiding or doing something that's useful for the company. There was nothing that was against the interest of the company or would have affected the company in a bad way. So also bringing that to our attention. So that's from me, Liz. And please share if I missed anything.
Thank you. Akash, could you move us on to the next slide, please? So, and we can kind of get the bullet points. These come in, I think, one at a time. So Alice knew that she had to get active in the process of influencing. She couldn't just kick back and do a really good presentation on the Friday. So a question to Vishesh and Rajiv. Could you have come to this strategy with only the quantitative information?
No way. Because you see, decisions made of this nature are not based on absolute rationality. And you need rationality to kind of support your arguments. But you need to look at the human aspect, the emotion aspect, and the motivation aspect of people also to actually formulate a strategy. So that's what we are actually learning here, is beyond rational, what more to look at human dynamics in organizations to achieve what you want.
Fantastic. So Vishesh, let me ask you the opposite question. Could you have come to this strategy of Alice to Bill, Bill to Craig, Craig to Tom with only the qualitative information and none of the quantitative information?
No, I don't think so. Because qualitative would have just got us to know about what kind of a relation exists between the two without having the risks involved in it. I think the quantity helps us know the risks involved in the said relationships, and it helps us take the right route via home to home. So
absolutely. So the point is to get a really thorough strategic plan. You need both qualitative and quantitative. And in this case, we've given you 45 pieces of information together that give you all that you need. In real life, you're going to have to find all the qualitative and quantitative information that you actually need to make a good strategy. Okay, next bullet point, Akash. And this has really been covered by Sanchi. I told you about that kind of dirt card that Joel has put into the deck, but we didn't use it. We didn't discuss it. None of us went there. So everything that you did in the Alice to Bill, Bill to Craig, Craig to Tom is ethical. So you do need to have a good level of interpersonal skills to be able to strategically influence somebody. But part of what the research has shown is that most mid-managers have that skill base. If you have somebody with really low emotional intelligence, maybe somebody who's on the spectrum and does not have the ability to be friendly in the way that they actually influence. So how important is the strategy, Rajiv, of Alice to Bill, Bill to Craig, Craig to Tom?
Yeah, it's definitely very important to follow the path of influencing You have to see which person in the chart has more influence on the other, and then approach that person to break down the walls of resistance. It's very important to see which weapon would be the most suitable to break the armor, to get into the other person's mind and move him in the direction that you want. That way, it's a very critical part of the analysis that you have to do in moving people. One thing which kind of I'm still a little wanted to ask you is about this last piece of conversation about Alice knowing something about Tom that could have derailed his career. It's a dilemma. It's a dilemma whether to use that arm twisting technique or not. Sometimes one argument could be that if the end goal is good, there's no harm in using some arm twisting. But on the other hand, if you have to be absolutely ethical about it, then you have to drop that idea. I wanted more views and discussion on this issue, if you can.